Absolutely. So, moving on to something that not as lighthearted as an app for movies. Harvey Weinstein, an article came out in the New York Times about him this past weekend, basically chronicling an investigation that they have done that uncovered that there's been numerous sexual harassment cases, and there's 8 lawsuits that have been resolved between Weinstein and victims, but it seems like there's a pattern here of a pretty serial sexual harasser, or something along those lines, just inappropriate.
Over 3 decades, too.
And I mean, obviously, Harvey Weinstein, I think he's very well known as like a major name in showbiz, just in general. But I mean, it's a pretty heartbreaking thing to hear, just that he's victimized so many people and that this has gone on for so long. I mean, what are your initial thoughts around this, or where do you want to start this conversation?
Yeah, no, and piggybacking on what you just said, I mean, the worst part is, you hear, oh, it's a unspoken secret, or not, no, what do you call it? Everyone knew about it, right? Mm-hmm. Especially people at the Weinstein Company, and before even Miramax, his old company.
Worst kept secret in Hollywood was, I think, the way I heard it described.
Right, and and his initial comments, I mean, he first take a leave of absence. He's since been fired. So, but his initial comments, he basically was making an excuse that isn't an excuse. John Oliver went off about this, about how, oh, this is how it happened in the 60s. That's your excuse, that women used to be demeaned and it was okay, so that's why you did it?
Right.
That's really what you just said right now? But on the opposite, he's also going to sue the New York Times because he says a lot of it is unfounded. So, I mean, there's no good look for this. And I know the cynics will say that, Mel Gibson is going to be in a comedy, Will Ferrell, this weekend, Daddy's Home 2. He was nominated for Best Director last year for Hacksaw Ridge. He's really come back in the good graces after all the stuff he said about 10 years, about 10 years ago. And Woody Allen's got a movie coming out this year with Justin Timberlake, doing stuff. So the thought that Weinstein would totally go away, it's probably a little naive until we actually see it happen.
Right.
But, and I honestly, like, the fact that he's such a piece of shit. I mean, he was such a piece of shit as a movie executive, because he would hold artists hostage and like not release their movies and change the cue. Always have final cut. Like Tulip Fever, that movie that just came out with Alicia Vikander, the Queen, and Dane DeHaan, like that got like 4 different release dates, and they just kept messing with it. And that's something he's always been known to do. And now the fact that he also is just a terrible person, like, it's just like of course he is. Like, I'm not even surprised.
It's kind of pull back to what you were saying about like normalizing it almost, in a sense, and like how like Mel Gibson and people who have, and Woody Allen, people who have done these horrible things in the past seem to still be benefiting from their star and have not really felt any effects. It needs to change somewhere. And like, just because Mel Gibson and Woody Allen had these things that were pretty horrible, and I think they were called out at the time it happened, or at least and some part of history had been called out, something really needs to change with this. Because while like Mel Gibson was literally like just spouting racist and sexist slurs, this is someone who is actually using his position of power to take advantage of people and to a
systemically
point. Yeah, systemically, exactly. And I had this conversation with one of my coworkers the other day about how like Joe Mixon, for example, this NFL star, everybody saw the video of him doing Tyreek Hill doing something horrible, and he still gets drafted and he still gets this contract and
scored a touchdown this week.
but the piece about it that I think is really positive is, if that happened 10 years ago, I don't think there would have been any owner that would come out and said, I don't want him on my team.
Yeah.
Now there's at least I think there was 10 owners who were like, I will not be drafting him this weekend
he's not on our board.
Right. Which, I mean, it's not where it should be, but it's progress. And we need to keep pushing these things and holding the people who can make these decisions to their feet to the fire. Because if the public doesn't, then these things aren't going to change.
Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, you've seen a lot of women in Hollywood who have chimed in about having similar experience happen to them. And, and hopefully the systemic need to just kind of keep quiet about it and just put up with it, not necessarily comply with what you're being asked to do, but just, shove it under the rug for the sake of your own career. Yeah, hopefully that's starting to go away and more people start speaking out. The New Yorker is supposedly has stuff coming out too. Maybe there's more cases. Maybe there's other individuals. Who knows? But hopefully it's a sign of the start of something good.